Strategic bombers. Impressive war machines that strike fear in the heart of the enemy and can sometimes single-handedly end wars. From the iconic flying fortress to the trusty liberator to the nuclear-capable super fortress, these bombers are very memorable and have their own special appeal. And trust me, I know. Don't tell anyone, but I got into War Thunder because of bombers. No other similar game on the market allowed you to fly them, so I just couldn't resist. In fact, this funny fella is my very first premium. Now, in case you didn't know, bombers suck in War Thunder ARB. It is no secret that they are entirely useless and only exist to be farmed by interceptors and fighters. There are some exceptions, of course, like the infamous Ju-288, but the vast majority of them are torture devices, and the one being tortured is you, the player. What the hell, you might think? Why not just buff bombers then? Give them extra armor, super guns with super gunners, make their bombs blow up all the ground targets at once. Surely that would help. And I'm here to tell you, no, it wouldn't. Just making bombers stronger is not the solution to this problem. How do I know? Well, 10 years ago, bombers were extremely strong, to the point of being overpowered. Let's go back. If you played War Thunder 10 years ago, then you know that the game used to be a lot better. The grind in particular was so much easier. But, even back then, bombers were a problem. Just a different kind of problem. Let us start with bombing itself. Back then, every map would always only have 3 bases. These bases didn't respawn and were easily destroyed, draining a significant amount of tickets. Once the bases were gone, you could then bomb the enemy airfield. It was a lot beefier than a base, but if you managed to destroy it, you won the game. It was that simple. I'm sure some of you still remember this plane. It used to be the OG airfield destroyer. Well, you might say, just intercept the bombers, defend the objective. And you would be right, except there was a small issue. Back then, bombers were also unkillable death machines. Issue number 1, they could take an insane amount of damage. It was very common for a plane like B-17 to tank hundreds of shells, unless you aimed specifically at the wings or the cockpit. And if you only had machine guns, you couldn't do anything at all. Issue number 2, the armament. AI gunners used to be absolutely busted, opening fire at enemies from a kilometer away and tracking them perfectly. Also, keep in mind that back then, 50 cals used to have a very high fire chance. Combine this with the aforementioned tankiness, and you realize that attacking bombers was often a one-way trip. While you could take them down with enough firepower, a single 50 cal bullet would usually take you down with them. And so, bombers ruled the skies with an iron fist. And don't forget, there was no limit on how many of them you could have on your team. A full team of B-17s? Yes, sir. You might say that this kind of balance was better. Bombers were strong, they had a role, and they forced other players to play the objective. I can see why you might think that. And I disagree for one simple reason: imbalance of reward and effort. Let us take a look at fighters. It takes a lot of skill and knowledge to use them properly. Yes, I know, but back then it was absolutely true, and you had to be good if you wanted to go after bombers. You had to pick a plane with sufficient armament, preferably 30mm cannons or higher. You had to climb to correct altitude. You had to approach from an angle where the turrets cannot target you. You had to aim for weak spots. Then, and only then, did you have a chance of making a successful attack. But no matter what, you were always at a risk of dying to a random 50 cal bullet. Oh, and you were on a timer too. Don't forget, if they bombed your airfield, it was game over. And now you look at bombers and they didn't take any skill to use whatsoever. Fly straight, drop bombs, win. If fighters dared to approach you, your plane was durable enough to shrug off their shells, giving you plenty of time to shoot them down. Or, if you felt extra lazy, you just let gunners handle them. Needless to say, it wasn't very good balance to have one type of plane get kills and wins for free, when others had to play perfectly just to have a chance. So, how did Gaijin fix this? Let's see. Gaijin's idea of a fix was to flip everything I just talked about on its head. They are truly the gods of game design. Did it work? No, of course it didn't. Bombers used to be too tanky, so now they fall apart from being sneezed at. To be fair, some are still fairly durable, especially at lower tiers where cannons are rare. But for most of them, getting hit is a death sentence. Gunners used to be too good, so now they don't do anything. They only fire at enemies if that particular enemy is already inside of you. Upgrading them doesn't do anything either, it's just a waste of experience points. Now, this change at least makes some sense. It incentivizes people to learn to aim turrets manually, instead of just getting free kills from your epic AI gunners. But then it begs the question of why have AI gunners at all? Believe it or not, these two changes did not ruin bombers. They made them harder to play, yes, but that's not a bad thing. It's good to challenge yourself and improve in the process. What really sealed the bomber's fate was a fairly recent change. Now, on most maps, bombing bases does not drain any tickets. Additionally, airfields now have so much health that it is virtually impossible to destroy them. What does that mean? Let me spell it out for you. Bombers are now completely and entirely useless. They do not influence the match in any way whatsoever. Their main purpose, bombing, now does absolutely nothing. You cannot win by bombing. So, in their current state, bombers in ARB have no reason to exist whatsoever. Now, I can see the comments already. Linika, you are such an idiot. You say this while getting epic frags in your background footage? Surely if bombers can do that, then they're not useless, right? The problem here is the fact that only a handful of bombers can be used like this. And while it is fun, you would probably get a lot more kills by just playing a decent fighter. So, what is the point? The point is, bombers aren't bad because they're fragile or weak. Bombers are bad because of the game mode. ARB was gradually changed on purpose to specifically make bombers useless. I don't know what Gaijin is smoking when they come up with these changes. As I said in my tank video, they have no idea on how to design and balance game modes, and ARB is yet another example of just that. On one hand, you have fighters that annihilate everything. On the other, you have bombers that do nothing at all. How did they come up with this balance? Only God knows. So, now that we know the issue, how do we fix it? Yeah, regarding that, I have bad news for you. To fix the bomber problem, you need to fix ARB. There is no other way. Adding new game modes specifically for bombers will not happen. Why? Think back to when they added RB Enduring Confrontation. People really liked this mode, and people would absolutely play it now if it was available. But it isn't. They got rid of it for good. Why would they do that? Because Gaijin is afraid of splitting the player base. You will play the barely functional ARB and you will enjoy it. Forget about new modes, it's never going to happen. Okay, so how do we fix ARB then? To fix it, you need to change the objective completely. The current thing with 4 bases needs to go. Having these separate bases only makes players fight over them, which often results in team killing. What you need is a single, huge bomb target with unlimited health. This eliminates the need for bomber players to compete with each other and instead promotes teamwork. After all, just like in real life, bombers are strong in numbers. To help with that, you ideally want AI bomber formations to blend into, and perhaps even AI interceptors. If we had that, then ARB battles would feel like actual battles. Just imagine hordes of bombers trying to make their way to the objective, and hordes of fighters going in to intercept them. Would be pretty cool, no? Well, it would certainly be better than the current team deathmatch. I'm sure some of you can already tell why this is never going to happen. Gaijin doesn't give a shit about air modes anymore. Whatever little attention they're paying is focused on the modern jet aircraft. Piston-driven planes are now long forgotten relics. In my tank video, I tried to make people speak up to make a change. I am not going to do that here. Tanks are very popular and extremely important to Gaijin. If enough players complain, they might improve them. ARB though? Yeah, I don't think they will ever touch it again. Sure, they will make small adjustments here and there, but do not expect anything special. Whatever changes they make will be entirely focused on top tier jets. A shout out and a big thank you to Luminosity, Hidora, and Florian for supporting me. If only Gaijin cared about their game as much as you care about me, I am lucky to have you. Next video is going to be about, I'm not sure. Leave a comment if you want to see something in particular. And with that, I bid you farewell. Take care.